practice yesterday.
I don't know where those.
After about 20 minutes, the lips were like hanging on the floor. Yeah. I tried to get to the last one, but I don't know what was there. And then we also had an extra load. Wait for the driver.
Please fill it out so I can compile it.
Does he have a list of what we're playing at the depot on the first train?
I've done this before with the BLM travel management, and I compile all the information and figure out whether we're together or not. I gotta go bridge store right now.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Just keep filling that in.
Who else gonna sit there? Somebody reading the skinny. Getting some road base this year. Got a bunch.
I don't think we're going to put much on this year. We've got a bunch stockpiled from last year. What I understand, the county's got a limited supply. They don't have access to it yet. They're starting to work on the riverbed. Apparently they can take it right out of the river and crush it. And so they've started working on that, but right now we've got it stockpiled. So you were a lot drier this year so far. I mean, I don't know how it is in the campground, but
The road looks pretty good so far. I don't see enough of volcanoes coming up. But you know, that didn't happen last year until June.
I was thinking that we were trying to get stuff from Memorial Days.
Well, we did.
So maybe it's still there.
I think it ain't gonna be.
Hey, Neil, I like your glasses. I made that strand for you.
That's pink moon.
What's that?
That's pink moon.
That's been yelling. What?
On that table there, did you see any? Mark's making copies. He's coming.
Who doesn't have? Anybody else? Motor-wise?
We got the boss on board to do those signs. I'll get with you later on that.
Yeah, let's talk about the details, because I know exactly how many we need. I know,
Okay,
roads and
again,
stuff.
Mark Rose.
Let's talk about the
Planning
details later.
Director For Silverton.
It'll be
You can
good.
email me or you can call me,
Yeah.
and then I'll be here. I'll be here on the 8th,
I feel like an
short
MC.
time, but I'll be back
Anyway,
sometime on
Mark
the
Rose.
15th.
Silverton.
And we got time to
County
make
Planning
them,
Director.
but
Yeah.
do not.
What you're
I've
filling
got
out is really important.
our
I'm
sign
not
company
ignoring
can turn
this.
them
I
around
am
in
going
about
to
a week.
compile all the comments.
So let's talk
And
about
hopefully we
it.
get new information, new ideas, consensus, all those type of things. So the ordinance, the vote, the way the vote went, the map on the back is the current route. We're not principally talking about changing routes. We're talking about improving and controlling and managing how this goes so that it doesn't interfere with people's lives and it's to the benefit of the community. So I think the most interesting question that I pose is how you describe yourself. So I have, different users, but how would you describe yourself as a Silverton resident and, on your transportation needs and your transportation use? Also, seasonal stuff is important for data collection. So I put into positive aspects, conflicts, solutions, and priorities. That's a pretty good one. Improvements, additional comments, and then again, that's the current map on the back. So I'm not in control of this. It is a town meeting. We're going to try to keep it in an hour and get everybody out because this is just very much the first collection of data here. So we just want to collect as much data we can, and then I'll compile it, and then we'll bring that to the town trustees with the recommendation. Of course, we have our fine public works director here that has to deal with streets as well. So he's got a lot of information also. So I will just open it up to positive. Let's start with something positive. What are the positive aspects of our OHPs?
It is important because we're streaming that anyone who wants to speak goes to the microphone, or you can pass that one around just to
Yeah.
keep that streaming there.
I'm no longer in control. The citizens are in control. So. Oh, come on.
Well, I've got the talking stick here in my hand. The positive, obviously, is a positive economic impact on our community, which is very diffuse. The range of different types of businesses positively impact. It pretty much covers the full spectrum. And another positive, for those of us that like to hike, well, I don't see a whole lot of people getting out in the backcountry that are not getting out there either with an SUV, a Jeep, or some other sort of vehicle. And nowadays, an amazing number of people that used to get out there with such vehicles are using side-by-sides, say, or ATVs, because typically, I'm prejudiced here, side-by-sides don't beat you up so much. And I love hiking. I love hiking 8 hours at a time. And I know there are people that do too. And some of my friends, who I was hoping to see here tonight, who are pushing 80 now, are good for 8-hour hikes still. But in order to do that, they need to be out in the backcountry somehow that doesn't beat them up. And those are early adapters to side-by-sides. And another thing, there are a lot of people who just can't get out there at all to hike anymore. Or maybe they never did hike, or maybe from places where you don't walk much. It's wonderful for them to be able to get out in the backcountry. using those.
There's also a graphic here, this beautifully drawn graphic right here. That is our OHV route. So if you have something you want to mark on there, prioritize, have something to say about it.
Mark, can I have your microphone for a minute?
Okay, it was going to be an hour meeting. Oh, watch this. Watch what Sarah has over here.
Oh, you want me to bring them out?
How's it going? All right, guys, you know what I'm interested in here? This is a city thing we're talking about. The county's not going to change, nor do we intend in changing ATVs in the county. We're talking about a city and access, enforcement. What do you want in town? What kind of signage do you want? This is very imperative of what we do, and we do it right. I know what you're saying there is that there's a lot of activity out there, and there's a hell of a lot of activity out there. We have done this before, remember? Did we do it right? What improvements do you want to do on it? What things do you want to change? This is your opportunity. The town board, through this vote, has the responsibility of setting the route. And they can change that if they wish. So keep that in mind. This hasn't got anything to do with the county at this point. Thank you.
Routing is adjustment, I would say. So that's just, I'll add that within the vote. So who else is positive tonight?
I can be positive, but I've got a suggestion too.
We're just opening it up to any discussion.
The positive is the businesses, obviously we've seen a lot of life and activity. The one thing I'd like to add as a possibility for positive to eliminate a negative is Reese Street, mirror Blair Street. And what that will allow is the positive is coming to businesses, restaurants, and so on, and that will also save the sheriff a little bit of enforcement right off of Green Street and may unload Green and Blair a little bit.
And he did that well. Who else? Again, adjusting is still where we're at, but we will input all.
I'm Jim Loki. Most people know who I am.
Where do you live?
I'm the owner of the Red Mountain Motel and RV Park. We're off-road positive. That's what we do. That's who we cater to. Jeeps, side-by-sides, dirt bikes. We do most of the rallies here in town down at the Red Mountain. We also are very involved with the Snowmobile Club in the wintertime. We bring the cats on the ground. They're here in Silverton along with the trail systems. We help with the trail systems not only for summer use, but also for winter use. We're very involved with COCO, which is Colorado Off-Highway Vehicle Coalition. I would be the spokesman for the new Silverton OHV Club, which is the Alpine Loop Silverton OHV chapter, where we're also going to merge with Lake City to help control and work together on our problems about signage and try and keep everybody on the same page. What we've done in the last month is I took a trip to Utah, I took a trip to Arizona, and I studied the signage on the Paiute Trail system in Utah, and it works very well. And they allow their ATVs on every street they have except their main drag. One of the things I found that was probably the most catching was all the signs are blown white. And the OHV communities recognize that type of travel route. And I've also talked with John Seitz as far as what the town wants to see in signs and what we can help with signs. We use Voss with the Silverton Snowmobile Club. We can get any kind of sign made that we need. John's also got an avenue to get signs, and so it's going to be a turnaround. We'll probably use both companies. ROHV Club is ready to absorb the cost along with whatever the town budget can allow also. So we need to decide, a lot of those blue and white signs is going to be key because it's in Arizona, it's in Utah, it's in Colorado with the snowmobiles as well. So that's something that we want to think about. We'll have more on these signs by the 15th of May, when most of us return to open up and get back to work. There's some that we can probably order sooner than that. And the input is of what you guys want to see. Is what I found was nobody reads them yellow and black signs. Even I don't see them.
Two quick questions. One, do you know what the shape of the signs were?
They were all square.
Okay. And if you happen to go in that direction again, can you get a picture?
I have pictures and I've circulated them with our OHB group. I just didn't bring them to the meeting tonight, but I do have I have a bunch of them.
We could probably Google image them too. What's the name of the town that has those in them?
It's the Pike Trail. We tried.
Go ahead and pull up.
It's called what trail?
The Pine Trail. It's in Richfield, Utah.
Okay, so we could probably Google image the OHB signs and.
Probably the simplest thing that we found when we were on the road is they're at every stop sign and they're only this big. I mean, they were literally everywhere and they were right at eye level. They weren't way up high. And they had an arrow on them. And it's kind of the same thing we do with a lot of the signs with the snowmobiles. We keep it very simple.
You're saying it's a standard sign that OHVs look for because they go to other places and it's kind of a universally recognized.
And Colorado State Parks does the same thing. And I wish I just brought the signs with me, but I got in a little bit late. Even Colorado State Parks runs some little blue and white signs as well. It's just something that's recognized in the off-road community.
Are we done with all this positive stuff?
No.
Who's positive?
No.
Who's positive?
I can also
You go positive, then I get the positive.
change gears here a little bit so if you guys need or have questions, feel free to email me or call me or stop by and talk to me anytime. I'm always down at our place, Slave Camping. I'm also the sound tester for the state of Colorado. And what I can tell you is that when you sell an off-road vehicle, it has to be below 96 decibels. Most vehicles that are sold coming out of the box are at 88 to 92. If anybody has a problem, or they're in question about their vehicle, or that they're concerned about the noise of off-road vehicles, I don't do like Harley Davidson and stuff, I do off-road stuff, okay? And the off-road stuff, you can come by, it's free, I have the machinery, I'm certified to do it, I'd be more than happy to test your unit if somebody is a little uneasy about the noise it makes. We're also an agent for the state of Colorado to sell the off-road stickers. Those can be purchased right there at our counter all summer long. Last year, I think we turned over like 500. And I think the gas station also sells them, and they turned over probably more like about 1,000.
Now, Jim, you're talking about the state parks too.
Yes. Which all OHVs, statewide, no matter where you're going, what you're doing, you gotta have one. They're $25.25. That money from those stickers, just like the money from a snowmobile sticker that goes into state parks, helps fund things like when I was on the phone with state parks the other day. Anything you need, Jim, just let us know and work with you on the signs. Same thing with the snowmobile club, because that money is coming back to us from our sticker purchases. That's how we have the snowcats on the ground here that we have in Silverton. That's how we have the trail systems. We can do the same thing with our OHV stuff.
I hope that has changed, because we have attended meetings in Denver with the state parks. They said they would not enhance or fund us for OHV because our regulations were different. You feel that that has changed now?
There's a new law, and I'm not sure what that is without talking with Tom, but I know that money is available. Just
Can we get something from them saying that they might be eligible to help us fund our expenditures for our HVs?
I can do that. I can talk to Tom Nesta and see where we're at with the
Talk to
program.
him when he said you got to go in for a grant in December.
Yeah.
That's the best I could get out of it.
Well, there's certain times for grant cycles. Like we'll do the grant cycle for all the snowcat stuff in May.
I just don't want it to sound like that they're giving us money for OHV and maintenance on the Alpine Loop. They're not. They're giving you money for grooming, with the groomers.
And this money will be money that's from the off-road stickers from the OHV side. And I'll work with them on that.
We appreciate it.
What you're getting there is that county and town could benefit from that.
I'll work with Tom on that. That'll come from two things. It'll come from COCO and Colorado State Parks. And that money will come from off-road stickers, not snowmobile stickers.
Got it. That'd be great.
Any questions?
No, I think you've really helped us out, Jim, if you'll pursue this so we can try to get some funding for the Alpine Loop for maintenance through the OHV stickers. We have gotten none. They need some. You're getting it for snowmobiles, but they're not getting it. Maybe that'll change. We need help.
Well, like I said, the law's changed on that with state parks, so let me work on that and I'll get with Tom and I'll take it from there.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bernie just made it a county issue.
That's okay.
That part of it.
No. He's one of my bosses, he can do anything. Well, I'd like to say thanks to not just the town and the county for all of the work that has been done in the past and the future work that you're going to be doing. One negative right off the get-go here, and I apologize for the negative, but I'm thinking everybody in this room may be thinking this. I'm kind of disappointed that we only have mayor and one councilman here. Oh, sorry, Jeff, I missed you over there. So two, I am disappointed. So, but what I'd like to do is address you.
Hey, Ron,
And
I just got the camera pointing. I want you to know the camera's right
How
here.
vocal.
Yeah, no, thank you.
One of the things is that we also have a majority of people in this town, by 55%, wants the whole town open. So keep that going, because we're not looking at that as trying to let the visitors run amok in town. All of us here know that opening up all the town streets benefits us as residents. This entire thing with opening up the town for OHVs has benefited the businesses with the visitors, our wonderful visitors that come here to spend a lot of money. But what I'd like to see is that the entire town be considered, different routes out of town be considered more open, because it would then benefit all of us as residents. I don't have to take up a parking spot on Green Street and then walk back to my house, because now we're taking away parking spots for visitors. So, think about this one also. You take a trip, you're going out of town, in your car, that is. You're going over to Telluride, you're going to Grand Junction, you go to Denver. Where are you headed? Are you headed there to go and travel in all the residential streets as a visitor? No, you're headed there for the businesses. Visitors that are coming to this town are doing the same thing. So if we open up a vast majority of the streets here, we're not going to have OHVers running amok on those streets. Open up the streets will do more to benefit us as residents than the visitors will ever see. So I just want the councilman and mayor to take that into consideration, where it's benefiting us. We put this vote out not just to see where we can get the money in the town, but also to benefit us as visitors, or as residents. One other positive I see
is in opening up more of the streets. And I can start drawing on this map up here also, but I think my rendition of the map that I'm going to turn in will be helpful. That at a minimum, I'd like to see the streets opened up to any and all businesses, whether it's Dale over at the LP gas tank, so that visitors coming up from Red Mountain or from the other campgrounds can ride up, head down 13th Street and actually get to there without having a problem with stopping on Blair Street, walking their can over to get it filled up. So just one more little street there. One more thing, of course, going back to one more positive that I've got is the more we open them up to the problem areas that I'm sure the sheriff and deputies could attest to, has to do with certain areas near other businesses, whether it's at 11th Street, 12th Street, 13th Street, or some more over on Blair Street that I'm not completely aware of, that it would take the workload off the sheriff's department, because I did have one resident talk to me about how they had made a 911 call, and the sheriff and deputies could not get there in time, in a timely manner, because they were dealing with OHV issues. The more we open up the streets, and part of those OHV issues were talking to a resident about how they couldn't go where they wanted to go. Another thing that's a great positive influence here is when we ride OHVs around town versus riding that big white and black truck that I have, just to run down to the grocery store, run to a gas station or something, where I got a few things to deliver, that OHV is a lot more fuel efficient than my truck.
If you can get to the fuel.
That's another thing, of course. That's on the negative side right now, but easily can be shown as a positive with opening up parts of Reese Street or all of Reese Street, like Kevin mentioned there, and working with CDOT to be able to get that proper crossing, because CDOT has already said that, yes, we can go across 550. We just need to make sure there's a proper interchange. And we can focus on that, we can get the money for that, and now they can get across the street for the gas.
Thank you for mentioning money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is money involved, there has to be. So another one is, of course, the work, like I said, the workload for the sheriffs. And another one is of course, something that Freddie had touched on, and of course this was not supposed to be a county issue, but those same people that Freddie was talking about being able to get out into the backcountry, to go hiking, to go way out there. Well, you got to start from wherever their resident is to get all the way out there. And the more streets that are opened up for us as residents, the better that's going to be, because more of us can get out there directly from our house. We can pack up the ATV, we can take our lunch, our cooler, or whatever we need right from our house and head out there. And once I get there, now unload my tent and everything else, put it on my back, and then hike further up, rather than have a 10-mile hike to get out there. Way of looking at it, or a few miles to get out of town. So other positives, of course, through the summertime when we do have visitors here, and of course we've got our different. I'm not positive where the July 4th committee is going on this with camping and such down by the train station, the depot, I should say. But opening up again more streets that'll get our ATVers down to or away from where they're camping. So a lot of positives can be seen on opening up as many streets as we can. And just remember that a majority of us did vote to open all the streets also.
Can I have it? Number one, Melody Skinner, River Street. If you want it open everywhere to another issue, to another vote. Vote came out like it did, or maybe more than it did. Number two, enforcement.
There you go.
You have a problem with the sheriff's department because they need to be all over the county. You go back to the police department. You have a police department, they're in town, taking care of the issues in town. No matter what they are, you've got someone that's focused in town. And anybody who remembers the PD, a lot of those guys cruising around town, enforcing the town ordinances, all of them. And I understand that some people want to monetize all the streets. I voted for C for the businesses. I didn't vote for C for me. I don't think you should think about monetizing every street just because you want it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Never apologize for your opinion.
Well, I do own an ATV, and I live on Cement Street. And I end up pushing my ATV or pulling it behind my truck. And, I mean, so from a resident's point of view, I would enjoy access, at least for residents, to be able to get to the trails without having to load them up onto a trailer. I mean, if there was an alleyway, I don't really care. I end up pushing it down the street. Yeah, that's totally stupid to have to do that. But anyway, that was my comment on that. I don't, if you don't own an ATV, you probably don't understand that. And my husband is actually handicapped. That is his street place, and I appreciate him being able to ride it, so. Cindy Shaw. Cindy Shaw.
Oh, yeah. Are we a positive or a conflict?
Positive. Good. You know, by the time the people that can't drive their ATVs from their house, by the time they load it up on a trailer, hook it up to a pickup, now you've got 8 wheels on the road, bringing up a lot of dust. Pounds per square inch, ATV puts a lot less pounds per square inch on the road than a trailer and a truck. So you've got twice the dust if you make a trailer to go somewhere. So it only makes sense. For any way you want to look at it, it only makes sense.
Just to piggyback off of, I believe it's Cindy, right?
Yes.
What people don't understand about these OHVs, or ATVs and side-by-sides, minimum, they're going to weigh 400 and some pounds. And the unit I want to buy weighs 1,600 pounds. And here I am off the main route by 2 blocks, 2 long city blocks. And it's crazy to think of people in my age bracket, which is in the 60s now, having to get out there and pushing a 1,600-pound vehicle just so we can have the same advantage as what we're giving our visitors. So I just wanted to piggyback off that because they're extremely heavy.
Anybody want to play with conflicts? Oh, come on.
People love coming in and riding those OHVs in town. They really do. People that were coming from Lake City wouldn't come on over, or else they just go out there to the back country and go back. And when we had Silverton Lakes, they were coming all the way in, spending the night in the cabins, and then going back. And they loved that because they said they never got the chance to do that backwards, where they could come Lake City over to Silverton. So that's my positive.
Maybe we all know the conflicts. Maybe we should hit solutions and priorities.
I'll do both.
Oh, good. Anybody know this?
Positive is I just got to clear out the 35 emails sitting in my tourist folder waiting for the vote. So I did get to say, yes, please come, pack your bags, we're more than welcome. But also being devil's advocate, I would like to say that from initially, personally, nothing to do with the chamber, just me, believed in the power of democracy. And the democratic process was that we voted in the route. And we did have the opportunity to vote in the whole town. But you know what? We didn't. And what I'm hearing out there from fear from residents is that, you know, that the power is with the town board, and yeah, we can hit the marker and swipe, and I live here. I pushed my OHV too, a block. I got in trouble 5 times before I started pushing it, to be honest, but I pushed it, and then I parked it on a lot that was on the route. But one thing Silverton is not good at that I hope we get better at is compromise and being respectful of each other. And you know what? I just came from someone's house who said, hey, I love that that y'all voted it in, but I actually don't want it to go by my house, and I've gotten a lot of those kind of fear-based conversations. So, yeah, would it be wonderful to swipe the pen open to the whole town? Absolutely. If we had that opportunity, and as a community, we didn't vote it in. So I think we also have to be mindful and respectful of the 30% that was adamantly against it, and just all learn to get along. And I think what the bigger picture is here, instead of talking about weight and dust, and that doesn't matter. What matters is how are we going to do, what are we going to do with the route? How are we going to communicate it? What are we going to do to make John Side successful? I know that John and Michelle are already working ahead of the game, weeks in advance, with the Alpine Loop group to ensure the success of this route. So what do we need to do as citizens to support this town, support the new nonprofit that's wonderful, legitimate nonprofit owning these issues, to make what we have successful? And then how do we create a community process for growth in the future? But I think we should also accept the vote and work with what was actually voted in.
Seemed like a truthful statement, but I shouldn't add my own opinion. How about priorities? Is there an agreement on number one priority? What's that? That's the CDOT, that's a biggie. We know it's a big problem, but we know CDOT's, we're looking at 20,000.
The reason I say, and Charlie, a very good point, gasoline, we are creating a safety hazard. Going down on an OHV, you fill the tank up directly and come back. Yes, there is the issue of the highway that can be dealt with. Forcing these people to have a trailer, and if you've ever been down to that station, they're crowded. The trailers had 5 to 10 5-gallon cans out there. Those things turn into bombs when they're empty and hot. We don't need something catastrophic happening because we will not allow a vehicle to go down and get fuel in a regulated container that's meant to handle it, not a lawnmower container.
Mark, can I address the gas problem a little bit? It is a problem, and I run the mines route up here, and boy, they have a hell of a time getting the gas, and you know it. The county did meet with the state highway here a few weeks ago, and when the problem came up, they said they will not allow you to ride on 550. You can ride across it. And they do not want you to go from Reese Street or across because it's too close to a blind curve. That would not be acceptable. They would endorse a crossing on Cement Street, but it has to be under controlled conditions. That means stop signs, snow dunning. And it's got to be in an area where they can't spin out or whatever they want. Once it gets started, they want you to run with it. And they're not going to change that. Now, to get Snowden Street across, we're going to have to spend some money. You got to get to Snowden Street, which isn't a major problem, but the other side of 550 is not set. It is a city street, but there's no pathway in there. A road would have to be made across there and down to the Conoco and back. That was the state highway situation, and they talked a lot about it, around about it to why.
It's pretty scary having to deal with CDOT, but I've dealt with MDOT, which is Montana Department of Transportation. So it's just painful and just, it's not a matter of months, it's a matter of years. So, but we'll collect the input and see what we can come up with on that. Anybody else on priority? Priority.
I would include with the fuel, I would put in, make it easy for the consumers or visitors to get to the repairs and the grocery store. And I don't know presently if that's already included in the route. I don't have a A, T, C, or V, so I don't know. I would put that in though. That is important to the visitors that they can get to those locations.
Alphabet soup. So, priority. I'll throw one out. Do you think signage is the priority? Is that the number one?
Yes.
That's a consensus on that, at least? Okay. Good. Improvements. What, okay, you got signage, but what other improvements?
Yeah, I'm not an ATVer, but I've seen them around town quite a bit. And I think, you know, you had the parking area out here by the campground, and then that didn't work because someone purchased that and there was no longer parking. I think you need some parking for these folks that come to town. And I also think locals could park their vehicles there and then the whole town doesn't have to be open to ATVs, because I don't think that's a good idea.
What was your name? My name is Nancy Berry.
Nancy Berry.
That's the trustee.
I agree with everything that was said. Yeah, we have to push ours a block and a half, and it makes it uncomfortable, and those that don't have OHVs of any kind don't understand that. You know, we don't go riding through the mountains like crazy people or through town. You know, it would be nice to be able to either walk or take my ATV and go to the post office or to the grocery store. It does save on gas. They're very efficient, and they aren't noisy, and they don't kick up as much dust as my husband's truck.
I'll try. I have an electric vehicle. Priority hits.
Nothing priority with whatever we do with the route. One of the things, like what Jim brought up, was the yellow signs. The yellow signs are not with how high they are and such. We need to look at that a little bit more. One of my past jobs was the configuration control manager. A lot of that had to do with where to point people. Talking about a large nuclear power plant, you had to have an escape route or just a normal way to get to someplace. We had those signs. We had things that we looked at, and what would people see prior to seeing something else? In other words, what signs are best out there? As we change or whatever we're going to do for the OHV, having just a yellow sign, obviously we know that people don't see that, or we wouldn't have all of the problems with the sheriff having to write tickets off the route. One of the things that you can do is have no-go signs. At this point, OHV, similar to what's on there, a big circle around and a slash. People see that. They don't see the yellow sign, but they will see a white, black, and a red sign. So when we do come up with where we do want to put the route, the priority is going to be signage.
I'm Tommy. When you're driving even a car down Green Street and it's busy and stuff like that, you can't be looking around. You're looking for pedestrians, you're looking for other vehicles and everything else. And I suggested, because this is what they do in a state park in Texas, is they just put a line right down the middle of the road. They make it very obvious. And you'd have to do it even on the dirt streets and stuff. And it wouldn't last as long as on the pavement. But you know, you could do it every 2 or 3 weeks. You know, and it wouldn't be a problem. But that's something right out in front of you, and you're not having to look for signs.
Since we mentioned no-go and everything, you know, where are the conflicts? If you were to put signs, where would you say? I'll vote for one.
None of the ones
I'll vote for that one.
None of the ones that exist are efficient, so everyone has to be redone.
Yeah. I will do a quick response to that I think the people who could answer that best, would be the guys who work at the sheriff's department, because they get most all the feedback, and that's what I suggest.
Where do you go?
John, what do you guys anticipate? Do you guys anticipate putting the existing signs on the double yellow line, like the way the crossing walk signs are?
We can talk.
John Sykes. As far as the signs go, we've been talking about this actually for a few weeks, myself, Mr. Loki, town staff, Sheriff Conrad. What can we do, because the indications were that this was going to pass, so we didn't want to be flat on our feet. So I've looked into pricing. Mr. Loki's looked into ways to waive pricing, and that would be a great option for us. But today, in order to replace all the signs that we have on the route right now with blue and white signs, would probably not be more than $3,000. So that's a pretty affordable fix. We can get them in, we can get them in at the right height. The only problem that we might have is on Green Street, where a lot of the poles that the signs are on are overcrowded with signs already. And I like Mr. Whip's idea of painting on Green Street. Maybe not so much on Blair. We can try it. And I'm open to trying anything. Someone had the idea of installing the plastic whiskers. Have you ever seen those? I don't think that that's going to last one blade. Yeah, here's one. We could put these out, but I don't think that's going to work with street maintenance, because you put a blade down on that, it's going to be gone. It's going to be trash. And plus, they're meant to be installed with nails. So I'm not that crazy about that idea, but I'm willing to give anything a try. I think blue signs are going to go a long way. And the signs that we have are probably all right. You know, a 24 by 24 inch sign with the OHV on it, blue background, white lettering, white OHV, arrows. I think that it's probably not going to get a lot more clear than that as far as signs go. But I'd like to hear other ideas.
Couldn't you get like those rubber pedestals where they're designed, if they get ran over, they break in half and then they can be reassembled? And just put them right on the double yellow line, one right in the middle of each block, just like the way the crossing walk signs are. But if you put them in the middle of the block on the double yellow line, if it's, let's just say it's 42, 48 inches off the floor, if you don't see that, you have no business driving.
And you're talking about on the entire route, not just Green Street.
At least go down Main Street. Let's start with Main Street, and if you buy another dozen signs, do them on Blair Street. But why not try to at least utilize the $1,700 that we were spending? You know, take them down off the pole. I'm not going to complain with that. It sort of sucks. So let's put them right there. You know, you're anywhere from 36 to 48 inches your head when you're riding an ATV. Put that sign right in their face, and they have no excuse not to see it. You know, let's try to use what we got. Then if you want to phase it to blue and white, go for it. But I mean, if you don't see that sign in your face, then maybe you shouldn't be riding.
Well, you know, I think I agree with some of the other comments about signs, is that they don't stand out. And we looked at this when you were on the board, that if you look at the Model Uniform Traffic Code, the yellow and white signs are actually the signs that you would use, that a traffic engineer would use. It doesn't matter if they don't work. You know, if they don't stand out, the blue and the white, we have no other predominantly blue and white signs in this town. So if people get used to that, I think that's going to make a big difference. But to go back to Mark's question, what is the priority for our solutions? And how broken are we? Obviously, it's going to affect my department somewhat. I'm not worried about maintenance, road maintenance. I'm not worried about sign maintenance. It's the sheriff. And we're spending a lot of taxpayer dollars, probably more than we're making off of tickets, because they're getting a lot of warnings, you know, and some people are really naive. Some people can actually miss the signs that we have, the route that we have. There's not good enough education out there. We need to get better brochures out there. We need to get them all over the place. We need to blanket this place. But we need to start with a list of priorities and solutions. And I think, for my part, signage is probably number one. And then anything else anyone can come up with, I'm glad to hear about it. So.
He mentioned mapping, so distribution of maps, who's involved in that, and how could we improve?
I like what Dave's talking about. No one sees a sign that's a third of the way up a telephone pole. If you have signs along routes that are on 4x4s or whatever, they disappear real quick. All you gotta do is park a bus or an RV or something like that over on Blair or wherever it might be. No one's gonna ever see those signs. I love the idea of having signs in intersections, out there in the street where it's in front of God and everybody. I'm a day. If you cannot see one of those signs, you've got no business driving. That would be a really effective solution.
You mean on Green Street?
Green Street and the cross streets and Blair.
You've said
Hey, Mark.
enough.
Last year when I found out about this paint striping on the street, you know, I wondered how it was going to hold up over on Blair Street, and I took some of this excavation paint, this orange paint, and I made it about 2 foot, and I made it about 4 inches wide, right in the center, where people are driving on either side of it, and it lasted for over 2 weeks. And then, you know, and then it got graded away. But, I mean, it will last on gravel for a while. And it's right there where you can't miss it.
Or that way. No, I got it. We got 2 of them going now. Proceed, please.
I agree with David. I think if you put the crosswalk signs up, like you have on Green Street, but on the side streets where they're not allowed, they're not going to, you can't use the same ones because people will think that's a crossing. You're going to have a different type of sign, but right in the middle of the street, something that you can move when winter comes, like you do on Green Street right now. To me, that would save a lot of money over the years, but that type that's a movable green or whatever, orange, whatever color, but it's going to have to be a bigger emblem on there to indicate that ATVs are not allowed. But I think it's going to have to be on the majority of the streets where they're not allowed. Getting back to Nancy's concern about parking, 4 years ago, I think it was, when this was being discussed, at the meetings that were being held, I was told that parking would not be a problem. People are still parking by the tennis courts, unloading over there. They're unloading at the library. When you tell them they can't do that, they just brush you off and say, I'm here to spend money, it's no big deal. You're going to have to eventually, I think, start doing something about where they can unload. And I don't know where you might be able to do that at this point in time, but I think in the future that's going to be an issue where they can park for the entire day and leave their vehicles, their trailers there. And I think it's a very important issue because you're going to still, I think, get people trying to load on other streets where they're not allowed.
Good input. It's on, apparently good. Is it? Or did we push it?
I think it's on. It's on. To answer, staying positive, I think that's the. No, we want it. We want it.
Thank you.
The railroad has 20-something acres on both ends of the tracks over on 10th. We want to utilize our area for staging, to alleviate the pressure on our streets, for trucks, trailers, and the OHVs themselves. We feel that 10th could be a good thoroughfare from Blair Green all the way over there, keeping the trailers, keeping the big trucks, while keeping the folks in town. It's just one of the options we've looked at.
Good. Keep it going. We'll let you go a half hour more. So we're at an hour point, but we'll keep rolling.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a comment. My name is Parker Levy, and I think a lot of these ideas are great, and I'm encouraged to see some of the solutions and some of the ideas come out. One thing that I would like to prioritize, and from the town's perspective, is I'd like to see the town prioritize a good examination of these ideas and make sure that they can make a decision that's based on a good financial analysis of some of these solutions. And that financial analysis ensures that the same type of signage, the same type of route finding, things like that can be continued from year to year so that there's some consistency for the visitors and the users that come to town. I think that the financial examination of these solutions is really important so that it is a solution that can last and make everybody happy over time.
Well, we shouldn't wish for no snow, but that did impact us a little. Who else? I know, that's somebody. I knew that I was starting the right person.
Jim Harper's generosity is a continuum in our community. And for those of us that live closely adjacent to 10th Street, we've already got howitzers, we've already got lots of yellow and orange iron, lots of tandem dump trucks and everything else up and down that street rumbling year round. We're used to it. We don't have any problem with that. I suspect very much you would get a majority of the folks along that corridor and adjacent to it who would love to sign off on 10 and make it possible for us to have a staging area over the other side of the depot. Thank you, Jim.
Anybody for half-track routes or?
Back to the mapping part of this, what we do at the Red Mountain, and Silver Summit does this, so does Silverton Lakes. You come into our office, you get a cabin, you get a motel room, you get an RV site. We have a little flyer that you open up, and in that flyer there's advertisements of everybody's choice that you put in your flyers. And in the center of that flyer is the ATV, or the OHV route, off-highway vehicle route. Everybody that walks into our office is given that map. And everybody that doesn't understand that map, we read that map for them. And we educate them. All the RV parks in town, and I know that a lot of the motels are on board with this as well as the gas station. And then one of the best ones was, Mark, are you going to have this in your magazine again this year?
Yeah, that's a OHV map. One thing I want to emphasize, I got to get that magazine to press in like 2 weeks. So there's going to be a route change.
So route change for mapping is going to be something we need to turn around in the next couple of weeks at a town hall meeting with the 8th. When is it?
So the 8th is Monday.
Yeah. I'd like to see that route locked so that we can all move forward with our brochures.
Yeah, I also need to make new ATV route brochures. I've got enough of the current ones to get us through May. So we're not going to really hit hard until a few weeks later. So, but I got to get moving on that.
And I know as well as the maps that we have, we would be more than willing to help pay for more of those, just like we do those Alpine Loop maps.
Mark, we have, okay.
I just want to caution you, I love the idea of the staging area on the other side of the depot, but before we take up arms to open up 10th Street, the depot is going to be closed, and that means that we don't have any monitoring on those tracks right there, which creates a safety issue for us, particularly because we have historical use there. So it's something that we really need to heavily consider before opening that up.
I just want to reiterate on what the gentleman said. If they're going to put a staging area down there, access over, see a lot of people with a propane, that'd be, like he said, be able to go down through there. Isn't that one way over to that parking lot you're all talking about? Or yeah, down that direction.
Yeah, propane company, at least the 13th and 12th on Manville, we're trying to open that loop up as a suggestion. They're going 2 blocks down from the drain coming down to the station areas.
But and also the is a priority Fuel is a big deal. I invite a lot of people all summer, and they show up with a lot of gas cans, you know. It's like we were talking about, so that's a pretty big priority.
Just gonna add one more smaller priority. This will be after brochures are made. But one of the things we need to do is, like Jim was saying, when people come in off the highway camping, the different campgrounds here, they're all getting the brochures, guaranteed. Those OHV people are getting those brochures. One of the things that we need to focus on is the people that come in from Hurricane Pass and down from Animas Forks and Lake City and the other routes, and make sure that when we put those brochures in, we put them at the Welcome to Silverton signs. And not just putting them at the signs, putting them in a strategic location. So if I ride up on my ATV, without getting off the vehicle or the passenger in the right side, and drive right up to it and pull it out just like it's a realtor. Hey, check out this house sign. Flip open the plastic, pull it out, take it with you as you come into town. One person studying it, or you pull a little bit further forward, you're studying, okay, where's this route going to be? But have those readily available and constantly available at those Welcome to Silverton signs.
Well, warning, adult content over here. No children here.
So, I want to address the brochures. If anybody has seen the marijuana brochures, I'm not promoting it or anything, but they put a package together, the do's and don'ts. They're allowed to cross state lines. They're not allowed to do this. They're not allowed to smoke in hotel rooms. We need some things like that in ours. The do's and don'ts. When we pull into town in the first meeting, we're not allowed to get out of it because of the tourists. So if they're pulled over on Reese Street, they're not allowed to play the card of, I'm spending money in your town, don't give me a ticket. So enforcement is an issue, whether anybody here wants to address that or not. I am for OHVs, but I can't own one because I don't live on a street that allows it. So I benefit in my business, but I can't have it because it's not on my street. So I'm willing to compromise. Because there are people in this town that are retired, there are people in this town that just don't want it. And one of the reasons we voted it in was for the business district. We collect the sales tax, we give the sales tax to the town and the county. What they do with it needs to be discussed here. How to educate these people, how to keep everybody happy. What's the compromise? I know it's
We were expecting more, Sharon.
I just have to get it together, you know?
So I'll go back to priorities and what everybody said and what I think the priority should be. Signage by far, number one. Point of contact, which is what we're all talking about here, educating them. I think on the two signs coming into town, add big letters, know the rules. Make sure they get a hold of that. They don't know it. When you're on the back street, as Sharon just said, if we're out in the world and in your area the back streets are 15, I don't know what they are, you're going to get a ticket. It shouldn't matter if they're on an ATV or not. They need to know they can't go there, which just brings up the same thing. The enforcement has to be stepped up. Once they know they can't do that, they'll stop. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Paul. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the maps because, Tony, we have 3 big signs around town for when people come in. For the last 2 summers, I have been taking care of those signs, making sure that they are full of maps, and there's never been one day or 1 hour where those signs were not full of maps. Also, not only to the RV parks, but I have, last summer I had 9 businesses downtown who were distributing the maps also. So we've got really good coverage for that, I think, really. And being the one doing this, I found out one big thing is that the sign at this end of town, south end of town, rare or barely, let's say, gives out maps. because of its location. You've got people coming in this way from Uray, and they're all over the place down there, and people aren't stopping at that sign. But the other two signs, I've had weeks where I would replace, I used to keep 51 brochures, that's what I could get into the holders. And there were times that this one, both of these out here, I would replace 25, 30 maps a week in those two signs. Where this one out here at this south end of town, I think the most I ever put in that one was 15. Because it's just not in a good spot. I've tested that, I've driven the road coming in from Uray, and I've tried to, I can see that sign, but it doesn't tell me anything. When the sun is shining in a certain time of day, you can't read it. Also with those signs, and I've just turned in a proposal to this, the wording needs to be changed on those signs. You need to get rid of the welcome to Silverton part of it, which is the biggest letters on the sign. The smaller letters underneath address the issue of OHV map. It needs to be the other way around.
Then we'll say thank you at the end. Thank you for complying.
Yeah, so that's what's going on with the maps. And the same thing this year, we're going to have them in businesses downtown also. And I'll make sure the RV parks have them, town hall has them, the visitor center has them. So.
Who's interested?
Okay, a lot of that could be solved as well through the expansion of the Silverton app, having everything available, making sure we blanket that through the town website, through the chamber website. Education is key. I think having brochures in every single one of the businesses, I get asked on a constant basis through the summer, what's the route, where am I? You know, a little star, you get your own little map, but you are here. Making sure that we do keep it right. I agree with expanding all of the side streets to Reese. I think the staging area at the train over there would be a tremendous advantage because right now I see people all the time getting so angry over by the post office. There's no place to park, you can't even go because they are there unloading. They don't know. We have to give the people guidance in order to make them go to the right areas. Signage is key, education is key. Every point that has been touched on here tonight, we've gone over and rehashed in our group to make sure that we are focusing on the right ideas to push this forward, to make sure that we don't have dissension anymore. We don't have people who are just vehemently against it and hating it. We might want to look at, for potential things, something for a sticker. You're a town resident, you get a sticker. That allows you to possibly be on your street. You could monetize the sticker, and I'm sure everybody who actually has an OHV would pay $10 to have a year-round sticker. That goes right on the windshield. Should we just converse like this?
Feet through here.
We've been throwing around the idea of monetizing this and doing it in a way that doesn't penalize our visitors. And one of the ideas that we've come up with, and Sarah and
His name is Steve. Steve Liesel.
Oh, Steve Liesel, right. Came up with this idea of just maybe creating a commemorative flag and doing a different flag every year. And it's voluntary to purchase, but it speaks to your time in Silverton. And something like that where we can funnel those funds directly towards going back into mitigating the problems. Any ideas that anyone has in that respect? Welcome.
You know, I'm listening as a observer, not as a participant to this, as a writer. You know, we're spending a lot of energy and we're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of frustration. Eventually, no matter what we think about this subject, I think we all know where this is going to end up. We're going to end up having ATVs on every street eventually. And I think that we need to really consider monetizing this, doing away with eliminating the frustration. It will also reduce the amount of traffic by opening up all the streets. Some streets will necessarily decrease, some may necessarily increase. I'm just telling you, I've dealt with numbers my whole life, doing actuarial issues. I really think, I know we just had a vote. The vote also indicated some major changes that are taking place. Apart from all of that, I really think we need to try to do some forecasting here and identify what's best for our community and for our income streams, and how can we allow our sheriffs to get the best possible handle and control this issue. That's what I'm thinking after listening to this for about an hour.
I'm checking the time. Got 15 minutes.
Let me address it. I can use up a lot of time. You know, guys, I like your idea, Tim, but went to a vote. This is what you have. A corridor through town set up by the town board. Doesn't mean they can allow it all over town. That was an issue on the ballot. That was not allowed. So those are their parameters of control. They'll do the best they can. I understand that, you know. But my other question is, when does this come back on the ballot again? What does it take to get this issue on the ballot again? 35 signatures. That's all it takes, and it will be back. And you know, and that gives people that have businesses here. You know, I know you don't like to hear that, but that's the way it works. And you damn near had a lot of loss of business here. You didn't know what you were going to get into, and I understand that. But it can come back. What is the timetable on coming back? Michelle, do you have any idea?
There is no timetable. Someone could come.
So it could be a petition presented tomorrow.
That's state law.
Did you get a total on the cost? What was the total cost for the election?
Do you really want to know? Yes. I don't know right at the moment. I'll put that together.
And just on that note, it makes me think about the people who brought those first initiatives, and how do we engage them so that that doesn't happen, Ernie? How do we, because this is a pretty pro-ATV crowd, and how are we going to engage the entire community, the ones who are dissatisfied, so that this does not come back onto the ballot? That would be something I'd like to brainstorm, if, you know, people are open to that, because I think it's really important. Oh.
Well, I think that's where your signage is important then. If we're gonna stick to a route, the signage, what else can you do? Besides advertising on the internet and your signage?
The one thing I do want to say as well, when we did this, because I was one of 4 and so was Jim, who put this to the ballot back in 14, we expected the town board to make adjustments, expansion and so on as necessary. That is still included in this, the amendments or initiative C. We expected the town board to advance it as necessary. It is going to change. It is going to be a dynamic. I'm not saying go all the way through town, but we need to modify it to ease pressure on places. My business is at 12th and Reese. And those poor folks, they have a hard time because they can park there. Jim, your generous offer will alleviate some of that, but we need to look at ways to allow the citizens to come here and enjoy it. And I will tell you too, somebody needs to talk to the sheriff about it, because I witnessed this being there. He pulled up in his personal truck, out of uniform, and sat in his truck screaming out the window at tourists. He scolded them so bad that when I went over there and tried to explain the route, they said, "We're done with Silverton, we're out of here." I know that's not the norm all the time, but it does happen. We need to realize, and Deanne has supported this as a chamber, we are a tourist town. We need to embrace our tourists, but we also need to be smart about this route and how we do it to take away the pressure points.
Well, we set this up for failure, let's be honest. I mean, the signage stinks, it takes the newspaper to print the map,
We set, our sheriff's department is our first point of contact. That's our fault, that's not the sheriff's department's fault. So we, as a community, need to find solutions that work for the future. What are we gonna do about education? What are we gonna do about communication? What's gonna be black and white, But that's all of our responsibility now.
And that's what we're doing tonight.
Yep, and this is a great process. So let's figure out what are those positive solutions and where does it work or not work on the route. But like Mark said, the clock's ticking. Chamber brochures are in. Mark needs to print his map. I don't think there's going to be, no offense, I don't think there's going to be a miraculous change on the 8th. I think we all need to go to print, quite frankly. But how do we ensure a successful summer and not make the sheriff's department the first point of contact? That should not be Bruce's priority or job.
Are we all talked out? Did everybody put their input? She always has something to tell us in the morning.
Yes, thank you for that. So I've identified our priorities kind of from what you've said as being access to fuel, connectivity, both in the backcountry and to businesses within town. Our signage is number one, a staging area, unloading area, and then financial analysis that we can, and you bring up a great point that we need to have a model that is, that can sustain over time, and which is where we need to start looking at a monetizing piece of this.
No.
So I can look at this and say the major issue is money. We need money.
I'll pay $30 for it.
I like the idea, Michelle, of having if you're a resident of Silverton, you want to buy a permit to ride it, or you're a resident of town.
I have blank copies too for people.
Why can't we do that? You can. Oh, that's great.
15 for county. I'll take 30.
Hey, guys, it's something about the situation.
With that child, let's sign this stuff.
One person
Who's got a microphone?
Need a mic over here.
Tony needs it again.
Hey, what Kim Damery said, he looked into the fuel situation, and he said there is a solution. It's a self-contained fuel tank. It's he described it like a septic tank that's encased in concrete, with the idea that in case somebody runs into it, it doesn't go all over the place. He says their solutions are available. He owns the Triangle Motel, or his son does, and then he's got their car wash across the street, which half of that lot is vacant. So he's got land to put it on, and he's already looked into this. The problem is money. So if we're gonna start kicking around money, if Kim's willing to stick his neck out, he said at this point in time, he goes, I can't put that kind of money out with the risk. So why don't we try to ease the burden on him? If he's gonna help us out, why don't we try to help him out?
What kind of money are you talking about?
I want to save 35 grand.
Yes, they're called time balls, if you want to look them up.
That's a big chunk of money for somebody. You know, and he's gonna have to probably charge 15 to 25 cents more a gallon, but, and it'll have its own, like a card reader, or you put dollar bills in it. It's all self-contained, you don't have a guy standing there pumping gas.
I know somebody in town tried that a few years ago.
Well, that was just out of a pickup truck.
Well, was that a 55-gallon drum?
Technically, that was illegal.
Right.
Kim was found, he says, you know, the wheel's already been invented on this. It's just a matter of somebody spending the money to buy the wheel. So, you know, if we're gonna, you know, we're talking about selling flags to put on our ATVs, selling stickers. Hey, I'm willing to buy one because I don't want to have to, I got my parked at the fire station. But, you know, I'm willing to, hey, membership has its privileges. You know, I mean, if we're going to sell, I'll buy a damn sticker for $25. I'm already sending money to the state. I don't see me getting anything out of it, but if I can spend $25 and I see something here in my own community, sure, no problem. But why don't we maybe talk to Kim and maybe we can try to find somebody. I don't know if grant money's gonna pay for that kind of thing. But you know what, if the guy's willing to step up and help out this community the way he has, why don't we get some skin in the game on this too?
And what they are is it's called a convault, C-O-N-V-A-U-L-T. I've dealt with them at RTD. We had a methanol tank. What it is a large concrete box. It has a tank inside, it has concrete and a liner and more concrete where they're designed to be hit, drop, whatever. They can take abuse and they do not leak because of the way they're designed. You'd also want to put bollards, and a bollard is a steel pole with concrete in the center of it to take some of the initial impact if somebody does lose control and run into them. They're very common.
If you want to see these, the state highway has them in Cascade, they have them in Uray. They use them every day.
Anybody need extra?
Who produces the stickers? Oh, okay.
The vault.
Okay, well, I'm on two, sorry.
Who needs extra copies for people that weren't here? Friends and neighbors and frenemies and whoever. How many? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Well, I promised not too long of a meeting, and I think we should wrap it up. I will compile all the input, and we will report it to the trustees. Have a discussion. So keep feeding it to me. Thank you, everybody.